Good evening. Welcome to the November 27th City Council Public Works Committee meeting.
Jessica
We'll begin tonight's
McCormick,
agenda with introductions of councilors.
dressing
beginning
classy
on the
for
left.
an elected
Thank
city
you, Mr.
official
Chairman.
as
Councilor
usual.
Mike Dilk, District 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Bain, District
Zach
20.
Adamson too, but he kind of gets a pass.
Thank you,
He's
Mr.
no
Chairman.
longer gonna
Dan
be in
Boots,
office.
District 3, Lawrence, Washington Townships.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jessica McCormick, District 15, West Side.
Good evening, Chairman Adamson. Krista Carlino, District 6, West Side.
Good evening, David Ray, District 19 on the east side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. William Oliver, District 9. Thank you.
And I'm Zach Adamson, District 17, the near north, near east, and near southeast side of downtown. With consent, I'd like to take proposals number 352, 353, and 354 together. And then again, I'd like to take 358 through 370 together. Consent? Very good. Okay, we'll begin with reappointments. Are there any persons here who are coming for reappointments? Otherwise, we can. Okay, Damon, you can come on up and address everyone. The 352 reappoints Dan Haig to the Board of Public Works. 353 reappoints Damon Richards to the Fatal Crash Review Team, and 354 reappoints Ted Grain to the Fatal Crash Review Team. Damon is here. And Dan is here also. Okay. You didn't need to come. I don't know. You don't have to come for these reappointments, but would you like to share with us your experience and why you'd like to be reappointed?
I have been a bicycle advocate for quite some time, and during my year on this team, I changed jobs, and now I'm an active transportation advocate, which makes it even more fitting for what this committee does. I've also found it to be very enlightening to be on the inside and doing these reviews. I think that there's a lot of education that the community could do.
Tony here?
Very good.
Getting
Thank
Tony.
you. Does anybody have any questions for Damon before we move on to Dan? Thanks, Damon, for coming in. Dan Hay, on the Public Works Board.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience and why you'd like to be reappointed.
Yeah, it's definitely been a great experience. I think, as some of you know, I do transportation for a living. So I'd like to give strong kudos to the folks at the department and the folks on the council for doing the good work you do, and work all over the country. And it's amazing what these folks do with obviously the fund constraints that you all are aware of. So looking forward to hopefully continuing to serve.
Dude,
Appreciate
$1.5 billion
your,
budget. Shut
the
up.
opportunity.
Thanks, Dan. And I see Ted came in also. Ted, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about your experience on the team and why you'd like to be reappointed?
So the Fatal Crash Review team, which is the committee that I'm on, is doing really important work. I think we are analyzing incident by incident and really thinking through holistically what's happening with that particular incident and seeing if we can make recommendations that would really improve the lives of future folks that are going through that corridor or through that street. So I think it's really important work, and I love the team that's assembled. So it's got DPW, IMPD, got some folks from the bike community. Damon's here. And I represent a healthcare system, and just bringing that perspective. A lot of the folks that end up being in a fatal crash end up at Eskenazi Health. So it really hits us home. So it's just been an honor to serve. I think it's just getting sort of its legs under it, I think, in terms of the actual impact that we could have. So I hope to continue to serve another year.
Thanks, Ted. Does anybody have any questions for Ted? Dan? Council Boots?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Can you just briefly go over what happens on an incident by incident basis from the perspective of what you guys generate as a deliverable? And is there a more comprehensive annual report of some sort that comes from your team that has maybe higher level recommendations?
Yeah, so the idea is that you review the incident, you take a look at what exactly happened given the police report, the witnesses that were at that moment, and then you take a look at, okay, so looking at this neighborhood, at this street particularly, what do we know about that location? Are there any improvements that are coming, maybe already in the pipe, that could help with this, or are there some stuff that we could do better in terms of that? So we do make individual recommendations if necessary. Sometimes it's really not the fault of the infrastructure. But sometimes we could do better. And
Okay. This is a guy who's part of the Fatal Review Crash team. So what they are part of is reviewing people who get hit, pedestrians or anybody riding a bicycle who gets hit by a car or whatever. And they're in charge of finding out how this happened, and is it like infrastructure, is it sidewalks, is it bike lanes, is it that the people are at a higher chance of getting hit by a car in this area. And he just said that it's not always an infrastructure problem. So when I see these twerps on social media talking about this, all infrastructure, this needs to be bike friendly. All these problems can be fixed if we just have the proper infrastructure for it. And to have that proper infrastructure, we need to have the funding, which equals you need to get taxed more. What he's saying that is that it's not always infrastructure.
And so ultimately that adds up into a report for each quarter that we review the incidents, and then that will kind of tally up into an annual report as well.
I've been trying to find this report and I can't find it anywhere. And it's pretty annoying because I would love to see the data of what's actually happening. Like mostly like how often does this happen? That's what I'm a little bit more curious on. So I'm looking forward to whenever hopefully he'll tell us when the report comes out.
Has your team generated an annual report yet?
It's in process.
It's in process right now, yeah.
Is there a completion date?
I believe the last time we checked it was the end of the year, so I don't know exactly what the end of the year looks like.
Probably be January,
January?
because we'll have to vote on it.
That's right. We have to vote on it at the next meeting, which would be in January. So,
Wonderful. Thank you. We look forward to seeing it.
thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for your willingness to serve on these boards.
Gross.
I looked at the attendance. Very good job. I know it's a time away from our families and from other responsibilities that we could have, but it is an important job to do, so appreciate it. Thank you. And as an engineer, there's always room for improvement, so yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments or questions for any of the appointees? Any questions or comments from the public on any of these three proposals? I know I speak for myself, this committee, and all of the counselors, and our appreciation for the time that you've devoted to these committees and boards and teams. It's important work that you're doing, and we can't do our jobs without the information that you guys are giving back to us and the work you do on these boards. So extend our appreciation and look forward to voting for you at full council. With that, Chairman will entertain a motion. It has been moved and seconded to send proposals 352, 53, and 54 to the full council with a do pass recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I want to talk about this for a minute. I don't know if I'm just going to make a separate video or if I'm going to include it in this one. We'll see how long I rant on. I want to talk about this Fatal Review Crash team because I kind of want to talk about how we got here. Let's see if I have it real quick. Okay, here we go. I want to talk about how we got here. So during the lockdowns, people were getting really pissed off, and they're just driving really aggressive. So, and nobody was on the road. A lot of people were locked up inside. They were working from home. So a lot of these people, they were just driving as fast as they wanted, wherever, whenever. With that, when everything started reopening, it was really hard for them to acclimate with all the cars around. They were just so used to going gung-ho on these streets. And, in my personal opinion, I think people had a lot of pent-up aggression. There was a lot of stress going on for a really long time, a lot of confusion, and they didn't know how to handle it. So one way of doing it, unfortunately, people were just going fast. So this is actually a really sad story. So back in September of 2021, a girl who was age 7, Hannah Crutchfield, she was crossing the street with her mom, and she got run over by these two people. So the story behind that is this teenager had hit this guy. He had hit this guy's car. Well, she took off, and the guy started chasing after her. And then they ended up getting in a car crash that ran over Hannah Crutchfield, hit her mom, and hit the crossing guard too. And so after that, the big advocacy groups between pedestrian and bicycle, they got together. DPW director at the time, Dan Parker, he was saying, it's like, oh, we need to figure this out. What's actually going on? Is it infrastructure problems? Is there anything that we can do with it? Spoiler alert, it's not really infrastructure problems. It's a people problem. So this is the kind of the crap that was really pissing me off at the time. That, common sense people know you're going to slow down in a school zone. The speed limit's there. Even if you have flashing lights, there are still people, plenty of people, that are going to speed through there. They don't care. A lot of low IQ dipshits are just going to speed right through there. It doesn't matter if it's in downtown, doesn't matter if it's in a rural area or suburban area, they're just going to do it. So what ended up happening was the guy, Torrell King, he was charged with manslaughter, and then the teenager, I'm not sure what happened to her. I think her name was Mia Sargent. You can go onto my case and you can look up Torrell King because they're still in a civil lawsuit with the crossing guard and the insurance company because he's still messed up. So what ended up happening is after that situation happened, all the advocacy groups got together and they wanted to do a memorial. One of them is named Michelle Pleasant. Her husband, Matt Pleasant, works for the city, I think in DMD. She never at one point talked about Torrell King or Mia Sargent running over Hannah Crutchfield. All they wanted to do was have a memorial playground. They wanted to raise funds to do a memorial playground in her honor. Well, this was already a playground that was around. They were just doing upgrades. They ended up raising like $240,000, $220, $240, something like that. And to upgrade all this playground equipment, if I don't know about you, but that does seem like a lot of money to upgrade playground equipment. But hey, to each their own. This is also a good lesson on that you don't need the government to fix things. If you have the private sector, they gather around, they have a common cause, they can raise money to have a lot of these infrastructure things repaired. But this was what was pissing me off. No point did any of these advocacy groups talk about Torrell King or Mia Sargent. Now, if I were them, I would have been bitching about it the whole time. It's like, there needs to be retribution. There needs to be a consequence to these kind of actions. It shouldn't just be like, oh, it's all infrastructure. We need to have lights. We need to have warnings. Well, common sense people know not to speed in a fucking school zone. They know not to go drive aggressively when there's people around. They just need to pay attention. And right now, there's no consequence to it. The prosecutor's office, the courts, they're not doing anything. And when something does happen, when some dipshit does get arrested, when he does get charged, guess what happens? He gets a low bond, and then Ryan Mears decides not to prosecute him. Charges dismissed. Why? Because they're all lazy. They're all lazy, and they don't care. And right now, the prosecutor's office is wanting to unionize. Why? Because of pay and they have a huge caseload. Well, all of this could be stopped if there was consequences to people's actions. So, fast forward to 2023. The jury of the Torrell King ended up finding him, they ended up acquitting the charges. They found him not guilty of anything. Now, tell me what's going to happen after this. Because I'm going to tell you a little detail on top of this, too. Right now, the policy in IMPD is to not chase people that run away from cops in a car. It's up to the cop's discretion. It's up to the IMPD, that officer working at that point. It's up to their discretion if they want to chase after them. Now, I understand both sides of it. If they start going like 100 down 37 or Michigan or whatever, you're putting a lot of people's lives at risk. Well, now the word is out. The word's been out. And people are just fleeing from the cops because good chance, I would say 50-50, that the officer is not going to chase after them. So this sets the precedent of you could just do whatever you want without any kind of consequence. And so right now we have Indianapolis, a society in certain areas where it's just a Wild West. There's no consequences to your actions. So I can just do whatever I want. And we have a court system. We have the prosecutor's office. that just doesn't care. And right now, everybody keeps blaming IMPD. They're not all to blame. I would say like they're probably the smallest amount for them to play in any of this. They can build a case. This is, by the way, this is what I've told IMPD officers, and I'm telling them, if any of my 5 subscribers that right now are listening, or they've relayed this video to IMPD, I'm actually on your side. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'm on your side. Like, you guys could build a case around this whole thing, and it's up to the prosecutor's office to run with it. But you can go onto my case, you can see. I just did a video on it. Go onto my case, my case Indiana. You're going to click on attorney. Last name Mears, first name Ryan. Scroll a little bit down, click on decided. Go through the felony charges. Go through the felony charges and see which ones are getting dismissed. There's no consequences to these actions. So right now what's going on is that you have all of Indianapolis. They all know they can do whatever they want. The people know that these scumbags can get away with whatever they want. And what are we supposed to do with that? You have good people that want to feel safe, but they're never going to feel safe if you have these bad people still roaming around without any consequences. And now the next generation, the Zoomers, they all know that they can get away with whatever they want. So what are we supposed to do with that? Well, I can tell you. People are still going to vote for it. Why? Because people want it. People want this kind of degenerate behavior on the streets, in their own homes. They want this kind of behavior without any consequence. So if you want change, you have to vote it out. That's the only way. The mayor is in charge of appointing the police chief. The mayor sets the policy. He appoints all these major positions that aren't elected, and then they're approved by the city council. You're setting the tone. This is what irritates the shit out of all these elections. Nobody is saying we're going to do it this way, and I got people ready. Even if they're not ready, you just need to well, what do we need for a policy? No more bullshit. That's what we want. Give them a vision. And right now, the vision in Indianapolis is garbage. And you guys need to stop voting for it. My 5 subscribers. That's all I'm saying. We need change. People signed the social contract of this is the line that we're not going to cross. You can float around it. You can go past it if you want, but expect a consequence. This is it's kind of like DUI drivers. Eventually, you're going to get caught. Eventually, or people that get caught with drugs. Eventually, you're going to get caught. You do them so often, you're going to get caught. And then your time's run out. I don't know how many speeding tickets I've had. I've had a lot. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm taking that chance that I'm going to get caught eventually. And I did. So we really just need to, and this all boils down to family. And I know I'm ranting right now, but this whole crash, this whole fatality crash review team, it's absolutely garbage. We need to start shaming people in some of these things. It's the only way anything's ever going to change. We used to be a society of morals. We used to have a line that we would set and we wouldn't cross it. And if people did cross it, especially repeatedly, a habitual line stepper, they would get in trouble. And now we're just saying, no, it's okay. Do as you want. Love is love. Hey, if it's not hurting you, why do anything about it? Well, now they are hurting us. Those habitual line steppers are hurting us, and it's only going to escalate because those people don't have a line. They don't have a moral compass. They're always going to do bad, and it's always going to get worse. Nothing ever gets better until you set the policy for it. Yeah. So, let's continue on.
Thank you all. All right, moving on to proposal number 355. Which approves an additional appropriation of $4,711,000 and transfers totaling $2,170,000 in the 2023 budget of the Department of Public Works, Consolidated County General Transportation, General and Solid Waste Collection General Funds for the purpose of affording increased contractual and fuel costs, equipment acquisitions, funding a local contribution to the Greenways Stewardship Endowment, costs related to the school zone flashing beacon program, and for capital expenditures towards Southeastern Avenue Trail project.
That was a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President and members of the committee. Beside me this evening for both the fiscal and then I think we'll help out with the subsequent presentations is Lauren Stevenson, our CFO, who I think all of you should know by now. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren just to briefly walk through what's in this proposal. I think that this has become fairly straightforward practice for you all at the end of the year, the fiscal cleanup, as I think it's commonly referred to. So this is the DPW specific fiscal cleanup. Lauren, if you want to just
We need to balance it out, is what he's saying.
Happy
Got
to
some
answer
extra
any
money.
questions.
Good evening.
We spent a little too much money.
Our fiscal this year is a mix of new appropriation, additional appropriation, as well as reallocation of current appropriation. So I'll run through them really quickly. If
Those
you
are
have any
just
questions,
big
let me know.
words.
We're asking
It's
for an
not that
additional
big of a deal.
1.5 million in fleet services for fuel-related expenses, 1.8 million in multimodal for the Southeastern Trail project, 500,000 in multimodal
Hold on. Can you imagine spending $1.5 million on gas? Holy shit. Crazy.
for the CICF Greenway Stewardship Endowment Fund, an additional appropriation for the school zone flashing beacon program, which was 850,000. So that sums up all of our additional appropriation requests. For reallocation, we're asking to move 1 million from Transportation General Character 2 and a split to Character 3 and Character 4. 175,000 from Fleet Services Character 1 and 745,000 from Character 4. All of this will go into Fleet Services Fund Character 3. And then an additional 250,000 moving from Character 5 to Character 3 in our Solid Waste Collection Fund. Happy to take any questions if there are.
Good, thank you.
This is basically they're just moving money over. They have extra money in one category, whatever it is, and they need to make it up in another category. So, I mean, this is just balancing the checkbook for the end of the year.
Are there any questions
Boring
from councilors on this
stuff.
bill?
What are you
Councilor
going to
Otto.
do about it, though?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brandon, on the impact of this funding for the beacon for the safety school zone, what has been that impact? We had a spike there, some complaints. Now, where are we at on that? Can you give us a summary
What's
of that?
she's laughing
Yeah.
at?
So when I came into this role at the beginning of the year, end of last year, one of the first questions I asked of the team was, what are we doing sort of proactively as it relates to school zone safety? And to be honest with you, the response was more or less, our hands are tied in some ways by the state as far as
No, they're
thinking
not.
creatively about new technology and
They're
things of
not.
that nature. And so I asked the team, and I want to shout out Natalie and
Bad leadership.
along with Natalie, our engineering division, that really went and rolled up their sleeves and did the homework. And when we finished our analysis by the end of the first quarter, what we realized is there were a couple dozen schools that sit on thoroughfares currently in Marion County that did not have sort of the minimum threshold of safety infrastructure, specifically these flashing beacons. And so if that takes us to sort of the end of Q1, by the end of Q2, we had done our due diligence to determine what that would cost, and Lauren could get into more specifics here, but we determined that we could cash flow that and that it was a high enough priority that we ought to take that to the mayor to consider making sure that we got all of those schools up to that baseline minimum standard, again, that are on thoroughfares as designated in our thoroughfare districts in our transportation plan. And so that's sort of how we came up with that proposal, or not proposal, how we came up with that program that we've then implemented. And we're asking here at the end of the year for, from a fiscal cleanup perspective, to sort of correct the books from an accounting perspective to make the cash flow work.
One additional. Yeah,
I'd be really curious to see if the beacons do work. I think it's because people are distracted on their phone.
do you use cameras? Do they use cameras for those stops there, for people going past the stops? Are cameras in use now?
No, and that's what I was referring to as far as at some level, state statute speaks to what we can and can't do from a traffic
It's
safety
security,
enforcement perspective,
privacy.
and so that's why you've also
What
seen
would it
the
matter
department
anyway?
and the mayor call for the use, the ability for local units to use that type of technology. It's something that it's something that we're cautiously optimistic we might get to in the future, in the near future. NDOT is now allowed after the last General Assembly session to use that technology,
Which I don't like.
to enforce safety in specifically construction zones. And we think that that's a great step forward, and we're encouraged by that. And so we want to continue to work with the state and hopefully be able to adopt similar technology for similar purposes in Marion County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other, Counselor Boots?
Quick one, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This pilot program that NDOT's allowed for cameras, is that for state highways only, or can
Yeah.
it be done on municipal streets?
State
I
highways.
think it's only in specifically NDOT construction zones, which I think would necessitate.
I think they're starting off in Hancock County. I might be wrong.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions or comments? Counselor McCormick?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. As a mama of two kids who walk to school, to and from school, I applaud you and the department for taking the initiative on this and making sure that our kiddos are safe when they're going to get the education that they deserve.
Thank you, Counselor. Any questions or comments from the general public on proposal number 256? Seeing none, the chair will
She
entertain a
does look
motion.
like those Medusa eyes.
It has been moved and seconded to send proposal 356 to the full count, 355 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to proposal 356, which approves an amendment to the existing public street lighting contract with Indianapolis Power and Light and doing business as AES Indiana in accordance with revised code section 361-405.
Yes, so happy to speak to proposal 356. It's actually very straightforward. We are seeking your approval to amend the existing contract with AES to sunset at the end of next year. The current contract runs to the end of this year. It is probably not news to anyone here, but for anyone potentially viewing at home, the AES made a decision earlier this year to file a rate case with the IURC, and in doing so triggered our need to continue negotiating with them on on this existing contract, but also be mindful of that rate case that they filed. That rate case, there was an announcement today that I frankly learned about sort of in real time as that was happening at the IURC level without my direct engagement. But as that process continues and that rate case that was filed with the IURC continues, at the end of that process, we will see our tariff rates increase. What this does, by amending this contract until the end of next year or when that rate case is comes to final decision, this locks in our current rates, which will save us taxpayer dollars in the interim until that new agreement goes into effect. So again, the question before you, what's written in this proposal is very simple. It's amendment of the existing contract with those existing rates through the end of next year. I just felt it important to add that additional context as to why we were seeking that approval. Again, essentially what this does is lock those rates.
I wonder
until
what
the
they exchanged for
IURC
that.
process plays out, which will then dictate the new tariffs to us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have we gotten any kind of updates on the cost savings that we've had from installing the new LED lights across the city? Have we gotten anything, or is there anything in this contract that would relate to cost savings as far as that goes?
So the contract certainly speaks to that. I don't have that information
Where's the contract?
readily available. We could certainly get that for you. We have realized savings, and we have been able to bank some of those savings. I don't have that specific information, but this is the agreement that spells that process out and those rates out. And
I wanna
again,
see the
that's what
contract.
we're seeking to do is protect as long as we can those rates because they are essentially saving us dollars today.
Very good. Any questions or comments from counselors on 356?
It does make me wonder, like, what did they exchange so they could keep these rates going on? Because AES are a bunch of blood-sucking vultures. They wouldn't give a crap. Deal made.
Any questions or Counselor Boots?
Quick ones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director. Quickly, notwithstanding the IURC case rate, or rate case, we're going to be locked in through December of '24. Even if that case is finalized and they get new rates, say June of '24.
Oh, even
No,
Carlino
the
knows.
way the amendment is written, it's until the end of next year or when that new.
Whichever occurs first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got you. And I'm sorry, I missed today's announcement on the case. What was that briefly?
At a high level, there was a unanimous decision to approve a new agreement, including new tariffs. I really can't speak to specifics. To be clear, what I can offer to be clear is that the city made a decision, not just at the DPW level, but OCC and the mayor's office as well, to intervene formally earlier this fall. I believe perhaps that was in September, and I believe that was a public decision. And so the city of Indianapolis formally intervened along with several other partners, which got us a seat at the table. So both the Office of Corporation Counsel and an outside consultant that DPW retained, who's a subject matter expert on utility rate cases, sat at that table and helped negotiate what that ultimate agreement would be. Again, I learned sort of in real time today, just serendipitous timing. We happen to have committee and also hearing this amendment tonight, that decision had been made. And I can't offer you too many specifics. I know it's been reported on. I just didn't have the time to get up to speed yet today about it.
Sure, thank you. I'm sure it'll be in the paper tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very sensitive thing to all of us, and that's lighting. What's the criteria that AES uses for putting up a new light where none exists? Do they make that decision, or us paying the bill make the decision where we want a light put up at? When I say us, I'm talking about the city of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Who make that decision?
It's a partnership. We work with them in good faith, not only on new lighting, but also on relocates for construction purposes and things of that nature. Also, if you think about maintenance, when a light goes out or you have a tree canopy that maybe comes in, or other vegetation that comes in and blocks lighting. So it's a back and forth, and we work with them. We have a list of lighting priorities. Councilor Dilk, I remember in our budget conversations, Madison Avenue coming up. And so it's something that I know is important to you all. Many of you have raised concerns with lighting with me, and we work with our partners at AES to do the best we can in achieving those goals.
I think what people are missing the point too is like it's really hard to get like a new light put up somewhere because you not just because like how much money it costs, but you have infrastructure problems too. You have to have a surveyor come out there. Is the ground able to support the pole that's going to be put in there to hold the light? Is there electricity that's close enough? Like I think of Mars Hill, or even near me, where there's just a lot of trees everywhere. So trying to run those lines through these trees, you're gonna have to cut some down. Like, what's the logistics of it? So most of the time, what happens is that they're gonna get a whole flood, a whole bunch of street lights if there's new construction going on, because it's just much easier because you're already there. You're already gonna be digging a bunch of crap up. So, like this whole modern Rockville project that's gonna be starting next year or the year after, like that all Rockville's probably gonna get a bunch of streetlights. It's gonna suck for the people that live on Rockville because they're not gonna be able to sleep at night because of the streetlights. But that's a clear-cut example of when that'd be the perfect time for it to happen.
We have an appropriate amount to spend in a calendar year, or how much we would have to pay for a new light to go up where none exists? Do we pay that extra cost, additional?
Yes, we'll oftentimes pay for those installs, and a lot of those details are spoken to in this agreement that we're asking to be amended today. And so a lot of that is sort of in flux as we wait to see what the new rate case is going to spell out for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carlino.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your presentation on this piece. Two questions, if I could, Mr. Chairman. One, a little bit germane to the previous proposal, and to dovetail into what Chairman Oliver was talking about, do we look at school zones and lighting in partnership with AES? How because I know lighting can be a safety feature, especially with daylight saving and the clocks going back in some of our high schools and middle schools going in very, very early when it's still dark. And then sports being released at 5:30 when it's again dark. And some of those kiddos are walking across the street going back home. So not sure what that current partnership looks like with negotiating lighting in school zones. Mm-hmm. So kind of a comment, but then a question. And then my second question is, if a rate increase, or when the rate increase, I guess I should say, comes back, do you have to come back before the council or this committee, or does it sort of just auto go into effect and we have to pay that higher rate? Or
Well, this extends our current.
I know this extends it, but that clause about or at what,
Does the new
whatever
rate have to
time
be
rate should
brought up in the
increase,
council?
we just
Or
Yeah,
does it just
so
happen?
I'll speak to that before I do. Nathan, I don't know if you're locked in there, maybe since you're on the outside. I'd ask Nathan Sheets to come up, who may be able to better answer as it relates to policy and school zones, or just writ large. Counselor Oliver, I don't know if I answered your question fully or not, so Nathan might be able to supplement.
And Nathan, I'm thinking about that big 10th Street, 10th and Girl School,
Right.
massive campus in Wayne Township.
Yeah. So on our capital projects, if we're doing roadway widening projects, things like that, we'll take a look at the street lighting as part of those projects. But you're right.
Like I said.
As part of the school zones, we're also taking a look at those as well. And so when we IPL
And that guy
or
chews
AES will
more
install
gum
as
than
many
me.
streetlights as
Going
we ask
hard.
them to, and they really lean on us to provide guidance on where those should actually be. So. You raise a good point about daylight savings time and it being darker out, and that's definitely something that we can consider as part of the deployment of the additional streetlights that are planned. And those additional streetlights, we're able to do that through those cost savings because of the LED conversions that AES had gone through. So those new streetlights that we install in order to offset those costs are paid for through that savings. I did reach out to Heather Cole when she manages our streetlight program just now, sent her an email to get an update on the count, and we can get you guys that maybe by the end of the meeting.
That's great. I just think, especially with the sun rising in the east, sometimes those west side schools are the last to get sun, and they're already sitting in class by the time the sun is up, truly. So I do think that could be a really critical step in improving pedestrian safety for our youngest constituents. And I think, the other logistical question about when the rate increase does kick in, we don't really have a say at that point. So I imagine it doesn't come back before committee or council.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, I would assume that in the 2024 budget, we had a line item for IPL costs, and so, that is streetlights, that's some of our satellite, our West Street garage, any of those energy uses.
Sloucher.
As well as our traffic signals. And so there is the potential that if there is a rate increase, that we probably would be coming back before you guys to kind of balance the book.
But they
on
don't
that.
know.
But Lauren might be able to provide a little more comment.
But wouldn't that be for the 25 budget season? Because if we're extending this contract to the end of 24 to lock us
It's not till
into
the end of 24.
23 rates, should they go forward with a rate increase? Isn't that the purpose of changing the contract?
Forgive me, if and when the IURC approves the new tariffs, that's when they would go into effect. They would supersede us, and they would supersede this local agreement. As I understand it today, we sort of have a grandfathered sweetheart deal, to call it that, if you will, we being the city of Indianapolis with AES, in that we have these specially negotiated rates that are at a lower rate. Not many other municipalities still have this. And so by getting
Sounds like
AES
nobody
to
knows what the hell is
agree
going on.
to negotiate this amendment just to get us to the end of next year, it's actually, I'm looking at it as a cost savings for taxpayers, hopefully until June, right? Hopefully not April, as I think Councilor Boots mentioned. It's possible that the IURC ratifies this, I believe, as soon as April, may not be until June. Any month under this existing agreement is cost savings realized relative to when those new rates go into effect.
Gotcha. Very good. Any other questions, comments from counselors? Are there any questions or comments from the public on Proposal 356? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to send Proposal 356 to the full council to do pass the recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Director. Now moving on to 357, and I think we were taking that one independent and then the next several together, right?
And then 357 is fairly straightforward. I don't have a great deal to share beyond, I think we've had this discussion in committee in the past, and I think it's a universally held belief that it's a good thing when another local unit wants to spend money that will ultimately improve infrastructure that our own residents will benefit from. So we're seeking that approval to enter into that interlocal agreement, again, in this instance for a project on the west side. I know that our engineering staff is here who could get into details on the project if there are questions, but what we're just asking you to do is enter into that interlocal agreement to move forward with the project.
Very good. And then just for the public record, then that is an interlocal between Marion County and Hendricks County for the construction and operation of improvements to Raceway Road due to construction of County Bridge 39. Are there any questions or comments from counselors? My two West Side counselors.
I'm going to go first, if that's okay,
Yeah.
Counselor. It's currently on our district border. The IU West Hospital is located just due west of this intersection, and we believe it's not only an infrastructure improvement, but it's also something that allows constituents from Marion County to seek care, even emergent care, even quicker and safer, and will allow for some pedestrian infrastructure. And so I'm in full support tonight.
Very good.
It's like
Thank
it's
you, Mr.
a
Chairman.
bridge over a creek.
Again, I agree with my colleague from the west side. This is important not only for our pedestrians, or for our safety for emergencies, but it's also just for infrastructure as well. And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from counselors on Proposal 357? Any questions or comments from the public on Proposal 357? Seeing none.
I had to
the chair
go
will
find
entertain a
this
motion.
bridge. I couldn't. I think it's just
It
over
has
a
been moved and
creek.
seconded
I don't
to
know
send Proposal
what the big
357 to
deal
full
is,
council to do
honestly.
pass recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I think
The
it's
ayes
near
have
the
it.
B&O
Very
Trail.
good. And now we'll take the consented grouped proposals 358 through 370. Director. Oh, we already, yeah. Reconsenting. All right, yeah, so Nathan, you're going to do this?
I'll do these, yeah.
Okay, very good.
So these are, these 5 proposals, kind of a hodgepodge of things that you guys have seen previously. And we'll start with proposal number 358, 2023. This authorizes the installation of parking meters in Parking Meter Zone 3, which would be installed on portions of Senate Avenue and Capitol Avenue between 11th and 13th Street.
Got to get that money.
As you guys are aware, because of the relationship with Park Indy, anytime that we lose parking meters, we have to find suitable replacement meters. And as part of the IU Health campus expansion project, multi-billion-dollar project, if you guys have been out there, you've seen the construction.
Thank you, taxpayers.
There are some meters that needed to be removed because of a street vacation that occurred, and as a result, we're asking that you approve and allow us to install additional parking meters in order to offset that loss there. And so that's District 11. Proposal number 359, 2023 authorizes the establishment of residential permit parking at 652 East St. Clair Street, District 17. Proposal number 360, 2023 authorizes parking restriction modifications on the north side of Ohio Street between West Street and Capitol Avenue, and on the south side of Washington Street between Alabama and Delaware Streets. That's District 11 and District 16. Proposal number 361, 2023 authorizes one-way northbound street designation along Delaware Street between Louisiana Street and Fall Creek Parkway South Drive. That's District 16. And proposal number 370 authorizes the removal of residential permit parking on the south side of 11th Street between Brookside Avenue and Arsenal Avenue. That's District 17. And if you have specific questions about the 5 proposals before you this evening, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I know 2 of the 5 are in District 17. I know the St. Clair Street residential permit was from the added meters that went into an area that a resident didn't have any off-street parking. So there's a space for him and his family, and then the removal is an area that is adjacent to a parking lot that hadn't been available, that is now available. So now the neighbors don't necessarily need that parking restriction anymore. So any other questions or comments from on these 5 proposals? Any questions or comments from the public on any of these 5 proposals? And now the chair will entertain a motion. It has been moved and seconded to send proposals 558 through 358 through 370 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Is that your house, Zach? No. Is that why we're doing that? Get you a
No.
good parking spot?
No. Years ago, when I moved into my house, there were duplexes all down my street and 4 cars in each one of those duplexes. I had to build a garage as soon as I moved in, so I'm set. And Councilor Mowry, go ahead and introduce yourself. I know you came in late.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Brian Mowry, District 25.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, moving on to, and I wanted to make sure everybody was aware also that after Proposal 371, there will be the fourth quarter review for end of year briefing. So just make sure you stick around for that. All right, Proposal 371. Have at it.
All right, thank you, sir. Last proposal, I believe, if memory serves, yet this evening. Again, fairly straightforward. Similar
This
to
is
the
how
interlocal.
boring meetings
The
are.
question before you today is authorizing the department to move forward with making an offer for land acquisition for an existing project that is budgeted for, been talked about a great deal, even yet here recently. The White River Innovation District is the overall, former GM stamping plant development. So we, the city of Indianapolis, DPW specifically, has entered into an agreement with the IEDC in Elanco to deliver the infrastructure necessary for not only the GM stamping plant site, former GM stamping plant site, but then what's been referred to as the Henry Street Bridge and the connectivity between the Henry Street Bridge over the White River and Kentucky Avenue. And what we're seeking today to do is to move forward with acquiring the property necessary to fulfill that easternmost stretch of that infrastructure that, again, we're obligated to under the agreement we've signed with Elanco and the IEDC.
Very good.
So
Thank you,
the
Director.
city
Again,
has
this
to
is a
buy
very
it?
Commonplace proposal. Does anybody have any questions or comments on Proposal 371?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just looking at the proposal, it says it's at 1231 East 91st Street.
Yeah, I think somehow the wrong version got uploaded to the city's website. I know that we corrected that.
I think it was wrong last meeting as well, because we had this conversation, like what is on 91st Street? We had the same conversation, so at some point, maybe somebody
The
needs to.
the digest was submitted incorrectly.
Yeah,
So
so
But the correct
attachment was
address is 402 Kentucky Avenue?
So the
Yes, that's
attachment
correct.
was correct. The attachment was incorrect also. The attachment was for the 91st Street. So you'll see a revised attachment A.
Okay.
You should have that. And so
Okay.
the digest.
Well, hopefully we'll get that
It's
fixed. so that we-
straightened out in
yeah,
our
okay.
record, so.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out, Counselor. Any other questions or comments from counselors on Proposal 371?
This is in that whole area where they're going to be building the soccer stadium, which is just going to be a giant clusterfuck of downtown Soda-Sopa. Not going to be good. And the taxpayers are funding all of it as usual.
Any
Go
questions
figure.
or comments from the public on Proposal 371? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion. It has been moved and seconded to send Proposal 371 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Director. Now we'll go on to the review, the year-end briefing.
All right.
Councilors should all have copies of this at your station.
Well, I will dive in. I certainly want to be respectful of everyone's time on the Monday after a holiday, but just a quick shout out. I saw President Quick joined us, our partners at AFSCME, and then also the entire crew here with us this evening. I won't ask everyone to come up individually as we have in the past, again, just for time's sake, but let me just start off by thanking the whole team here for all the hard work over the course of the year. It is
just doing their
truly,
job, man.
Just an honor to be able to sit here and give this presentation. And I certainly don't want to take credit for all the hard work that the men and women behind me do throughout the year. But it is a humbling task to be here before you.
Is it?
Really quickly,
Is it?
I'm going to start off just by going through a quick announcement on staff transitions. If you have not heard, we have lost Aaliyah to the mayor's office. Our general counsel, Bob Fry, has left for Indigo. We are excited to be able to continue working with both of them in their new capacity.
Hey, want to do something fun? Want to find out how much these people make? Yeah, before. Nathan Sheets, right? All right, let's see. Nathan Sheets, he makes 100 grand. Okay. Next we have Elia Wishner. Yes, I did. All right. Let's see. Team. She just got new election clerk. Deputy. She makes 118. Not bad, huh? Not bad.
And unfortunately, Erica Miller made a difficult decision for her family and what's best for her family. She'll be transitioning at the end of the year. And Nathan Sheets has agreed to try to fill her very big shoes. So I'm excited for that opportunity for Nathan.
All making
I
more
am
money.
sad to see both Erica and Aaliyah and Bob, all three of them go, but I know that we'll continue to operate and function at a high level. But just want to call out the three of them for their service to DPW and Nathan for his new role with the department.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krista. You're a better cheerleader than I am. You can see here just briefly, again, want to be transparent as we are in the quarterly updates where we are with revenue collection. I don't think there's a lot too newsworthy here, but we're happy to entertain questions as we get towards the end. Again, I'll try to flip through these fairly quickly if Lauren's fingers can keep up. We've got a great story to tell from an HR perspective. And where we are with staffing. Again, thanks to President Quick and our partners at AFSCME, I think we've been creative, I think we've been thoughtful in our approach, and I think we've done a good job in addressing the needs the department has sort of writ large. Our friends in the back right of the room at Fleet Services are cringing a little bit. We do have room for improvement there, and it's something we're going to spend some time focusing on. You'll see later on in the presentation that we have begun the training that we talked about during budget already at Fleet Services, and I want us to continue to think about how we can be investing in that division and prioritizing recruitment and retention there, and the ongoing compensation analysis that we're doing in partnership with AFSCME and OCC and OFM, I think could be helpful there. But again, you can see those vacancy rates are in a better place than where we were last year. Next slide, please. Policy and Planning Division, again, trying to be quick here. You've heard us talk about this a number of times, but for the public at home, the INIP program will be sunsetting.
Dude, that solid waste garage was approved 2 years ago.
This is, again, a matching grant program that will now also incorporate tactical urbanism and art in the right-of-way.
Tactical urbanism project. Oh, my God.
Just as we have in past years with opening that grant opportunity here at the end of this year, so we can get a jump start on it next year.
You guys are so dumb.
The timeline for the new solid waste garage is, you can see here, hopefully yet in the spring of next year, starting to move dirt and moving forward so that we can get those folks in our solid waste division the new quarters that they deserve. And you can see here also policy and planning, no turn on red. We did successfully implement the first tranche of those signs in the downtown core. Next slide, please. Office of Sustainability, Morgan's here. She can go into greater detail on her division's priorities. You can see them here. I know I've spoken to a couple of counselors and members of the team specifically about the EV showcase back in October, and I think those are fun opportunities that aren't just continuing the mission of the division, but also a good way for us to engage with our constituents where they are.
Let me tell you something about the EV showcase, all right? So I went to the very first one. I can't remember if it was earlier this year or last year. It was over off of 96th Street. And it was actually pretty interesting, except for there was at the Indigo spot, I was talking to a guy over there, and he was like, "Oh, it's all electric." I go, "No kidding." I'm like, it's like, "Well, how do you guys charge it?" You know, we start talking a little bit, and I said something about it being all electric, and he like reverted. He's like, "Well, it's a hybrid." I'm like, "Oh, so it's not all electric?" He's like, "No, it is." Like, no, all electric is all electric. And you know what? I was like, I'm not even gonna get into it with this guy. Whatever. He is like, they're just not sending their best as usual. Sending people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. So I went to this other one that he just talked about in October. It was over. It was in near downtown. I forgot what it is exactly where it was at, but man, that was sad. It was so sad. There was like hardly anybody there. When I was asking questions, nobody knew the answers to them. I think there was only one tent that kind of knew what they were talking about. Like, EV is like, I know this crap. All right. Don't try and bullshit me with any of this solar panel, wind, any kind of EV or hybrid, any of that crap. Listen, I'm going to beat you on it. I know all about it. And when I was asking other people certain questions about it, they're like, well, I don't know. But this guy, he would know. So if you're going to bring a helper in to try and lure people into this whole solar power or wind turbine infrastructure thing, you're going to have to bring some people that know their shit. Not me, because I'm not a proponent of it. I think it's all bullshit. Actually, it's not that I know, it is all bullshit. But if you want to confuse people and trick people, you go for it. There also weren't a whole lot of electric vehicles, and when you were looking at the price tags on it, it was like 60,000, 80,000. Not sure if the general consumer is going to be able to afford that. Plus, I was talking to a few people about like how you charge in your car because, like for me, it's not too bad because I have a driveway. But for people that have street parking, how are you going to do that? It's like they're going to rent out a Tesla or they're going to buy a Nissan Leaf. How are they going to charge it? Plus, like who's paying for it, and what are there rebates on it? What's the do I get any money back? Like the money that I put in, how long in the future is it going to take for me to make it back? And obviously, it's all, well, it depends. All right. Well, that's great. Like I need to know, plan for the future. So to my 5 subscribers, maybe someone should tell DPW and anybody who's going to run that EV showcase to do a better job. Or hey, get in contact with me. I'll tell you what people want to know.
Next slide, environmental services. Again, you can see how we have been prioritizing that community engagement and getting back into the community. I think it's something all of us saw during COVID and in the year or two after COVID, a little bit of a lack of that. Just because the world turned upside down on us for a moment. And so I'm proud and want to thank Nate in the back and all the members of the team that helped us pull off some really successful events this year as it relates to tax drop and those initiatives. On the solid waste side, you can see here we've got 18 new trucks ordered in 22 and 7 more were recently delivered. And we're anticipating the final 8 to come in the first half of next year. We're in better shape than last year when it comes to driver shortages as well. And again, think that the partnership with ASME has gone a long way there. Next slide, please. And you can see here data that reflects those investments and that prioritization from a staffing capacity, and our overall numbers speak for themselves. And we're proud of the work that we're doing, not just with our own crews, but also with our partnership with Keys to Work. And a big shout out to Lacey in the back who has helped prioritize those cleanups and led that effort for us. So thank you, Lacey. Speaking of Lacey, grounds maintenance, you can see here all the data collected as it relates to the work those crews have been doing over the course of the year. Next slide.
Hold on. Facilities maintenance. Yeah, but what's the weight? Oh, okay, there it is. 93 tons. Okay. Ugh. Hey, look, we're doing our job.
You can also see here from a forestry and stormwater perspective the data, and I would just again call out some of the conversations we started during budget this past year relative to responding to
People could
real-time
do this
impacts of climate
themselves
change in our community, the number of downed trees in the right-of-way, and the amount of work that's going to require of us long-term. And so proud of all these numbers. But sometimes it's hard to take those numbers and think through what that looks like.
Doing our
real-time
job.
Boots on the ground, and just again put yourself in the shoes of that man or woman who's responding at 1 in the morning in the pouring rain in the dark with a chainsaw, right? Trying to make sure that a fire truck can get through on our city streets. It's hard work, it's honest work, and these numbers reflect a good deal of sweat equity that our folks are putting in out there on the ground. And you can see
Sweat
here
equity.
a couple of pictures of what
Getting
that
paid
work
for
looks
it.
like. A little sunnier conditions than the optimistic portrait that I just painted. But you can see here also the new trail maintenance team out hard at work.
People bitch about them all the time because they have these little ATVs and they park them on the trail so they can get their equipment over there and start cutting down some of the leaves and the branches, but they're still gonna cry about it.
Traffic signs and signals, again, I'm breezing through this just out of respect for time, but a great deal of time and energy gets put in, again, in those storm call-outs and in just the routine maintenance that we're doing regularly with our traffic and sign folks. Moving to fleet services, again, you heard me talk a little bit about this at the offset. If we have some areas that we need to focus on moving into next year from a staffing perspective, it's at fleet. But we're still proud of the fact that they're continuing to be named as one of the top 100 fleets in America. And you can see here the other work we've done,
there's
again,
not that many
prioritizing
fleets
that
anyway.
EV training and looking forward to that additional allocation.
No one's doing EV repairs, all right? Like these people are probably morons. You're not gonna have enough electric cars to do any of the repairs anyway.
That you all approved in the budget last year for training for our folks at Fleet Services. And again, just a reminder of the size and the scale of the task at hand for our Fleet Services division.
They're doing their job. Okay,
Special
cool.
events and community support. Steve Pruitt I saw in the back there. Hard at work again with Circle of Lights just this past weekend, right? You think about all of the big time events that our city puts on. You think about all of the things that we're proud of that we do as a community. And I guarantee you've got the hardworking men and women of DPW working as a backbone along with our partners at IMPD, along with our partners at IFD, supporting those events. And I think just this past Friday was a perfect example of that. And so a huge shout out to them and all the work that they do. In addition, thank you, Lauren. You can see here
That's it, 7
the work
lines.
that they're doing beyond just planning for those special events and putting on those special events as it relates to maintenance of our
7
city
miles,
streets.
that's it. That's crazy,
And
that's it.
potholes. Thankfully, I'm going to continue to knock on wood. It's been a good year for potholes, and you can see
Yeah, 'cause
the
we didn't
number
have
of
that much
requests has
snow.
dropped,
We'll probably
quite a
have the
bit
same
year
next
over
year.
date, and we've been able to respond to those in record time. We'll move into construction season. You're probably sick of hearing us talk about these numbers, but these are the results of the labors that our team have put in and the investments that you all have chosen to make as it relates to infrastructure in our community. You can see here a couple of pictures from some events that we've had. Again, I want to call out the prioritization of public engagement and a huge shout out to Kyle. You guys haven't all probably heard from Kyle a great deal yet, but you will continue to hear more from him moving forward in the future. Kyle joined the team back in the spring and has now stood up a fully staffed communications team who is helping us think about community engagement in new ways. And we're going to continue to get out there and meet our constituents where they are and try to get their feedback and incorporate into projects.
Dude, they don't
as best
care.
we can.
All right.
So with that, that's a segue into
It's
our
just
construction season
all
update.
fake.
We'll kind of flip through these pretty quickly. Again,
$23
happy to
million,
make ourselves available
$37 million,
for questions. Lauren, you can kind of
$94 million.
I think fairly easily.
Hey, we were gonna skip through how much money we spent this year.
Bring us to the end. You'll see the preview.
And in the future, in the next
projects that we have coming in the next year.
Ooh.
Again, questions or concerns.
Yeah,
happy to
look how much
entertain
money
them.
we're gonna be spending.
And then finally, the last two slides here are, again, these are the same slides that you saw when we introduced and you all approved our capital plan for the next 5 years. This is a look at the engineering 5-year plan, and then the stormwater, the transportation 5-year plan, and then the stormwater 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And with that,
Oh yeah, you're
again,
just
I
skipping right through how much
that,
money we're gonna be
out of
spending.
respect for time,
Hey, no big deal. No
I'd
big
like to
deal.
take one last moment, if you'll indulge me, and ask Natalie to come up. We have some parting gifts for a couple of long-time counselors who have been
Ray was
incredible partners to the department, to me personally, both in the director's role and also in my role when I had the opportunity to serve with you all in the council office. And so Chairman Ray, Chairman Oliver, and Vice President Adamson, we just wanted to demonstrate our how much we appreciate the partnership that we've had with all of you over the last few years, and we have a little token of gratitude that we'd like to close out with. And with that, that's the end of our Q4 presentation.
That's actually kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. That is cute. That is pretty cute. Not gonna lie. One real gray.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is great. This is fantastic. I gotta figure out a place to sit. Yeah.
That is kind of cool.
Thank you,
With
Director. Thank you, Natalie. And serving on this committee, as most of you know, is a big passion of mine. Public Works. First thing they told me when I first got elected, you always think about Public Works. If it moves in the city of Indianapolis, it's Public Works. Whether we're talking about moving people, moving solid waste, moving snow. The city of Indianapolis does not happen without this department. And so, again, it's been my honor to be a part of the last, 12 years of my
Jeez,
time.
3
on the
terms
council,
and he
to be
got
part of
knocked
this
out by a
amazing department,
socialist.
the work that you all have done, and you make us proud every day. So thank you all for this and for your collaboration with the city's legislative body. Couldn't do it without you. So thank you. So in going back into the year-end briefing really quick, can I make one last pitch to reiterate something I'd mentioned to you before, and that is crack sealing along State Avenue between Washington and Michigan Street. Just want to make sure that gets done before it gets too cold, because it's on the verge now. I just want to get it before it starts to crack up. But Thank you all again. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I got a question.
Counselor Oliver.
Just a pretty good question of information, please.
Yeah.
On the engineering part, it was discovered by the engineers when they done the purple line on East 38th Street, and when they went to do it, they uncovered something that was bypassed in the steps of grading, et cetera, in years past. And when they discovered that there was a lake or a creek or something underneath 38th Street, it prolonged the building research of the street today. My question, going forward, this was not done years ago, the specification that standard as to what goes into reconstructing a street versus going down 6 inches, 12 inches, sand, gravel, et cetera, et cetera. There's some steps there that were bypassed 30, 40 years ago. And when they went down to put in the purple line on East 38th Street, it was uncovered that the inspectors 30 or 40 years ago, whenever that was done, someone did not check to see that the process was being done according to specification.
Oh, the
So
oversight.
going forward, what is the life of a complete resurfacing of a street? What's the life of that street that should be considering the traffic and the weather going forward?
Oh,
What is the standard
I see what you're
of
saying.
the life of a street? And what's the process of putting down a new street? What goes in first? How far down the dig? And
That's
what
gonna be
do
a
they
long
put on,
answer.
Put on, and when they're done? Could we get a brief?
That might be for something offline, just because that sounds like it's gonna be pretty detailed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information there. So, Director, if you could have somebody in engineering
Yeah.
get back with Counselor Oliver, so he has that information on kind of road construction basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
Absolutely.
be great.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Counselor. So, we are adjourned. Very good.
So I think what Oliver's asking is like, what's the estimated lifespan of a street, and why wasn't there oversight when they were doing that years ago? Like, what step was missed? And this is actually very relatable because it's happening right now towards somewhere near me on Morris Street. There was only supposed to take like a month or a couple of month project, and now it's been delayed a year and a half because they didn't do something properly back whenever they did it last time, and now they had to redesign it. They had to get new people in there, and now instead of it being done it was supposed to be done in August of this year. It is now going to be done in October of next year of 24. So good question by Oliver. Probably like what was happening at that time where this is happening, why that happened, and all these new construction projects. So, oh well, we'll never know because it's all being done behind closed doors. That's just how it works.